The chief starts laughing loudly.
You called us here because of this crazy man. How can you believe anything this poor and troubled man says?
Yaya, wearing old clothes, shakes his head.
Please, chiefs of Wabila, I am telling the truth. This land will have a terrible drought and famine if we don't do something. Please believe me.
One of the chiefs, still laughing, says,
Okay, we have listened to you, Yaya, but where did you hear this prediction?
Yaya takes a deep breath.
A tomato fruit showed me the future.
The village of Wabila was a rich place. The land was very good for growing food, and there were many delicious fruits and vegetables. But even though the village was wealthy, some of the people were very poor. The rich people in the village thought it was normal to be poor. They believed that the gods were punishing poor people because of this. Life was very hard for the poor villagers of Wabila. They were mistreated and made to live in the worst parts of the village. The soil there was not good for farming, and it often flooded when it rained. Yaya was a poor person. His parents were poor too. They lived in the path and worked hard doing small jobs for the rich Wabila villagers. Despite the poor soil, they tried to grow their own food in their small garden. One day, a terrible sickness came to the poor parts of the village. The sick people asked the rich people for help, but they were ignored. The rich of Wabela told them that the sickness was a trial from the gods and a means to cleanse the land of their sins. Yaya's parents died in this terrible plague that lasted for many years. Many people ran away to escape the sickness. He decided to seek solace at the forest. Yaya walked deep into the forest. He used palm trees and bamboos to make a place to live. To find food, he looked for things to eat in the forest. One evening, while looking for food near a river, Yaya saw something shiny in the water. It looked like a fish tail. He wanted to know what it was, so he moved quietly closer.
Please don't touch me. I will lose my magic if you do.
Yaya looked around but couldn't see who was talking. He thought he was imagining things and reached for the shiny tail again. The voice said,
I can give you anything you want, but please don't touch my tail.
Suddenly, a beautiful young woman stepped out of the dense shrubs. She was completely naked and grabbed the golden tail. Instantly, she changed into a huge fish, making Yaya freeze in fear.
Life in the river can be boring, so I sometimes come to the land to enjoy the sun, the earth, and good food. Thank you for not touching my tail. As a reward, I will help you. Across the river, deep in the wood, is a giant tomato tree. Touching it can make any wish come true.
The fish said. With that, she dove back into the river. Yaya wasted no time running back to his hut. Next morning, he went back to the river hoping to see the golden tail again. But to his surprise, the river was completely dry. Wondering if he was imagining things, he decided to cross to the other side. He walked deep into the woods until he found a huge tree with bright red tomato berries.
This is real. It wasn't a dream after all.
He said to himself as he touched the tree's bark. It whispered.
Until you're sick, you can have 3 wishes, but you can't bring anyone back from the dead.
Yaya thought for a moment and then requested.
I want to be rich. Richer than anyone alive today.
A wish is granted. However, it's not custom for visitors to make 3 wishes. Since you only made one, take 2 of my berries, plant them deep in the ground, and they will grow into plentiful harvest. This will balance things out.
Yaya quickly picked 2 of the tree's ripe red berries and asked.
Where's my wealth? My wish hasn't come true yet.
The tree replied.
Your wish is that is something special. Opportunities will come your way once my berries you plant grow. Be patient.
Yaya returned to his little hut feeling let down. He'd hoped for bags of gold, not just 2 tomatoes and patience. He felt cursed by poverty.
Why do the gods hate me this much?
He thought sadly, but then an idea came to him.
Maybe these berries can grow into something I can sell at the market.
He buried them, hoping for the best. The next morning, Yaya was startled awake by beautiful singing. He looked out and saw an amazing sight. The strange girl who suddenly turned into a huge fish was swinging on a giant tree. Even more surprising, she was swinging on the berries he had planted. They had grown into a massive tree overnight. The girl called out.
I see you've crossed to the other side of the river. I was worried you wouldn't make it over, so I had to move the river.
She picked a fruit from the tree and offered it to him.
Eat this. It can show you the future.
She said. Yaya was unsure about this, but eventually took a bite of the juicy fruit. Suddenly, Yaya found himself transported to his own village, Webila. But something was terribly wrong. The usual lush and green-elite parts of the village was now a barren desert. The once flowing stream had completely dried up. A hand reached out to him.
Please help me. Give me even a drop of water or food.
Voice pleaded. Yaya snapped back to reality.
What was that? Why are the people in my village who are supposed to be well off starving and weak?
She shrugged and replied.
I don't know, but the answers might be in another berry.
She picked another juicy fruit and offered it to him. He found himself in a lavish party for the wealthy, while a terrible disease was killing the poor people in the village. The rich people continued to feast and celebrate as if nothing was wrong. After the disease wiped out most of the poor population, the survivors fled. The wealthy villagers were left with no one to help them with their daily work on farming, so they decided to hire people from nearby villages to do their chores. When the new workers saw how rich the village elites were, they rebelled and stole all their money and possessions. Following the theft, a severe famine struck the land. Crops failed and the river dried up. Yaya woke up and said aloud,
I have to tell them.
but then he wondered.
Who are you and what's your name?
The strange girl replied.
I am Tashika, the guardian of the forest.
Yaya tried to warn the chiefs about the prophecy, but they laughed at him. Angry and upset, he decided to leave them alone. He became friends with Tashika. Every morning she would wake Yaya up by singing and playing on the tomato tree. Then they would spend their days exploring the woods, telling stories and playing with the animals. When the sun went down, Tashika would always return to the river. After a long time, Yaya asked Tashika to stay with him. She explained that she couldn't because the forest would weaken, causing harm to the creatures. Just as they were talking, someone called out, and Tashika quickly dived into the river.
Sister, help me. My father's hot.
Cried a frightened boy as he ran to Yaya. Yaya rushed to where the boy's father was lying and was shocked to see that it was one of the chiefs from Webila's village.
I know you. You, you were the one with the prophecy.
The wounded chief managed to say before fainting. When he woke up, it was nightfall and he was in a small hut. He stumbled outside to find Yaya and his son roasting corn by the fire.
Are you awake? Would you like something to eat? We make delicious soup for dinner.
The boy exclaimed, rushing to his side. The chief looked at Yaya and said,
We are sorry we didn't believe you. Please forgive us for being so foolish.
I felt sorry for the chief and his son who had lost everything. He decided it was time to go to their village Webila and help the people there. He told the chief and his son to take whatever they needed to survive from his huge farm behind the hut. Then he harvested some more and shared it to the hungry villagers. The villagers were very grateful to Yaya and apologized for ignoring him. Yaya went back to his house, worried about the people in the village. Suddenly, he heard a familiar song. Excited, he ran outside to find Tashika.
You haven't visited in a week. What happened?
Yaya asked. Then Tashika replied,
You were busy with work and with your people. I didn't want to bother you. Now tell me how you're going to help your village.
Yaya looked
I
sad.
don't know what to do. The ground is so dry that nothing can grow.
Tashika felt worried about Yaya. She plucked another ripe tomato berry and gave it to him.
Eat this. You may get your answers.
She suggested. Yaya went back to the village and shared the solution to the drought with everyone. They decided to work together to dig a canal that would bring water from the river in the forest to the village. They hurried to the forest where Yaya lived. Yaya helped the people build shelters and place to cook. Everyone worked hard in digging the canal and planted crops near the river for next season. After 7 months, the canal was finished and water flowed into their village. The dry land slowly started to turn green again. The village chiefs were very grateful to Yaya. Everyone in the village wanted Yaya to be their leader. Yaya agreed and asked Tashika to marry him and be his partner. But Tashika said,
I love the forest and cannot live in the village with you. But I will come visit every morning when the sun rises and leave when the sun sets.
every morning, Tashika would walk the village path while singing a beautiful song until she arrived at Yaya's home. But one day she stopped coming. Yaya was very sad. The villagers tried to make him feel better by offering their daughters to marry, But Yaya only loved Tashika. One rainy morning, 10 months later, the people of the village had a song that they knew well. They hurried outside to find out who was singing. When they looked, they saw Tashika. She was holding two little babies in her arms. Yaya was very happy. He took the babies and asked.
Are these our children?
Tashika nodded and said,
They're a sign of our love. As long as they live, the earth and water will be good to us all.
Yaya passed the decree that the forest must be protected and that there should be a special day every year to remember how the forest brought them new hope. Tashika stayed in the village with Yaya and they started a royal family. The children and grandchildren were very rich and powerful, fostering unity and love.